Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. The link is below in the description. Subscribe to Bizarro World Goodman. That's like my alter ego, my Tony Clifton, and it's the deranged anti-Trump person in your life personified. Share right this second my Times of Israel article, Hillary Clinton, not Biden, will be nominee. That's below in the pinned comment and description. Ladies and gentlemen, big news, huge news. Richard Grenell is the man. He needs to, after John Ratcliffe becomes the official ODNI chief, or director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell needs a place in President Trump's administration, in the intelligence community. Maybe the new FBI director, who knows? That would be fantastic. But you look, ladies and gentlemen, Grenell declassifies names of President Obama's officials who unmasked Flynn. Acting Director of National Intelligence Richard Grenell has decided to declassify information about President Obama-era officials who were behind the unmasking of Michael Flynn, whose calls with the former Russian ambassador during the presidential transition were picked up in surveillance and later leaked, and their names could soon be made public. Fox News confirmed that a new round of documents is expected in the wake of a document dump last week that renewed focus on the Russia investigation, specifically the treatment of Flynn. The unmasking concerns events between November 2016 and the inauguration day 2017. Another source asked if former President Obama's name is on the list of officials involved in unmasking Flynn. The source would not say, but stressed the list would make waves. The Wall Street Journal, which reported on the looming release overnight, cited a senior government official who called Grenell's move unprecedented, and it came just days after the Justice Department dropped its case against Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor. It is now up to Attorney General William Barr to release the names publicly. Unmasking occurs after U.S. citizens' conversations are incidentally picked up in conversations with foreign officials who are being monitored by the intelligence community. The U.S. citizens' identities are supposed to be protected if their participation is incidental and no wrongdoing is suspected. However, officials can determine the U.S. citizens' names through a process that is supposed to safeguard their rights. Officials in President Obama's administration have acknowledged that they unmasked some Americans in intelligence reports, but insisted that their reasons were legitimate. Susan Rice, by the way, Susan Rice initially stated she never unmasked names, then she said it was legitimate. Susan Rice, President Obama's former national security advisor, said she unmasked the identities of Trump officials during the transition. Why is it that President Obama's administration always, from one of the major tragedies that took place during President Obama's administration, that I'm not going to get into on this, but you know what I'm talking about. Why is it that Susan Rice has always taken the blame? Hillary Clinton didn't take the blame. Notice what Democrats do. Very insidious. Why is it Susan Rice always took the blame for every major scandal in President Obama's administration, including this unmasking? Susan Rice, President Obama's former national security advisor, said she unmasked the identities of Trump officials during the transition. She has denied leaking their identities or being politically motivated. Yeah, right. So Grenell visited the Justice Department at some point last week and had the list with him. The move coincided with the department's stunning reversal in the Flynn case, which was previously seen as Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's signature case from the Russia collusion investigation. The decision to drop the case was made even through prosecutors for the past 3 years, even though prosecutors have maintained that Flynn lied to the FBI. Well, we have no 302s. Why should we trust the FBI? Why is it that we should trust Peter Strzok, who said we will stop Trump? The 302s, the notes, are nowhere to be found. Devin Nunes just the other day said they've lost the 302s. The 302s are the summaries on note paper. They think they're like the G-men of the 30s, 20s, and 30s. And they just, on note paper, not recorded, not videotaped, not recorded, no way to verify the authenticity or the accuracy of the interviews. You're just trusting the word of potentially corrupt law enforcement officials. Most of the FBI, great people. Sometimes you have Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Kevin Kleinsmith, Andrew McCabe, a whole list of people. Kevin Kleinsmith was the man who just accidentally had 17 inaccuracies. Who was just accidental 17 times. He didn't know how to fill out the application. They utilized a dossier purchased by Clinton to start an investigation because they had nothing on Trump, but Trump had a lot on them. And the whole planet has a lot on them. You have servers. The servers, ladies and gentlemen, were unencrypted for 3 months that Clinton used. She had top secret and special access program intelligence that Michael Hayden and Robert Gates, they still voted for Clinton, which shows you how corrupt the establishment is. But Michael Hayden and Robert Gates said the entire planet hacked into Clinton's servers. So, if you're a foreign intelligence, operation or agency, and you know that the Secretary of State, President Obama's Secretary of State, has servers running outside of the United States government with no protection for 3 months, and actually, she initially used an AT&T email account for the first 2 months or so, and then 3 months after that, her servers were unencrypted. Then she found a way to, once they had some protection, she found a way to transfer or migrate or cut and paste or take photos of classified and special access program intelligence, the highest level intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government. And she only used her phone. So she had a BlackBerry phone that she only used, that iconic photo. She's running, first of all, she'll be the nominee. Forget about running. She'll be the nominee. She'll run against President Trump, and she'll be on that ballot. In 2020, it'll be Hillary Clinton versus President Trump again, and I will have made the biggest political call of all time. They didn't purchase a Steele dossier that was compiled with Russian sources, so Russia collusion was on the Democratic side, not the Trump side. They say that Russia colluded with Trump because the DNC emails showed how corrupt Democrats were. This is the absurd, maniacal, narcissistic, megalomaniacal, completely egotistical manner that this is how they view things. They got hacked by Russia because Russia wanted to inform how corrupt they were because they were cheating Bernie Sanders. What is it when they say there's Russian interference? How did they interfere? Because there are two competing propaganda spins that Democrats use. One is that Hillary Clinton won fair and square over Bernie Sanders in the primary. She got more votes. The second is that, Russia hacked the DNC to inform, to embarrass the Democrats. Well, how did, what was in the emails that embarrassed the Democratic Party? Oh, yeah, that's right. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. Why is that? Because they cheat. But, again, Facebook ads didn't swing the election. A second before the voting results came in, they were talking about a sweep, electoral college landslide. They had egg on their faces, and NPR quoted me in 2015 and 538. That article's below. NPR quoted me. I stated that Clinton would lose swing states, and she's unelectable, and she'd lost swing states. I was talking about Clinton losing swing states in 2015 in The Hill, The Huffington Post, and Salon. And NPR quoted me at 538 in that paragraph. You could check below in the pinned comment and description. Go to the description. Everything I say is in there. In the description, 538 says Trump wouldn't even be GOP nominee. But they needed to get to Flynn because... the interview the department said was conducted without any legitimate investigative basis. That's the main reason. Then you have one person who was part of President Obama's Justice Department saying, well, of course there was an investigative basis. He lied about his discussions with Sergei Kislyak. He didn't have to tell Michael Flynn did not have to tell a soul about his discussions with Sergei Kislyak. Furthermore, we don't know what he told. We don't know what he told Peter Strzok and the other agent. Because these were people who were there to set up and frame Flynn. Everyone knows this. The entire planet knows this. And Democrats know this too, but they get into they engage in the mental gymnastics of, well, and this was a President Obama's Justice Department official in the Washington Post, I think, stated that, well, the Russians could have blackmailed Flynn because they knew the real nature of the conversation. You want to know what the nature of the conversation is, which is why that notion is completely nonsensical? He wanted to ease tensions because President Obama engaged in sanctions because the intelligence community was moderately to highly confident that the DNC, a private entity, was hacked by Russia because they were so afraid of Hillary. Why would they be afraid of of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton? That's a package deal. That's a package. You get 2 for 1. 2 corrupt politicians for the price of 1. And so Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin at his home while the uranium deal was going down in 2010. That was in Newsweek and The Hill. He got $500,000 from a Moscow investment bank. Uranium One officials gave money into the Clinton Foundation, and President Obama didn't veto the sale. Why is that? Of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, and it is a fact, yellow cake uranium was shipped out of the country. Under Mueller's watch, he was FBI director. I write about this in Debunking the Trump-Russia Myth in 2017. You want to read like all of these things that are taking place I wrote about in 2017, not to pat myself on the back, but it's below in the pinned comment. I also have fantasy novels that I wrote. 2 fantasy novels, Breaking the Devil's Heart and Logic of Demons. That's below in the pin. If you have a Kindle, you can read my fantasy novels and also read the dystopian, actually nonfiction of Butthurt Top Secret emails, Butthurt Deleted emails, and Debunking the Trump-Russia Myth. They have masks now that say Butthurt emails, as if none of this would have happened, the crisis, if we had just disregarded the fact that Clinton used servers to hide all her communication for 4 years and then illegally transfer top secret and special access program and classified data. It was never. Then they say, well, this Trump administration official had classified data on a personal email. It wasn't about personal email. It wasn't about about private servers. If you have personal email on a government server, a government has all access to all your information. So you log on to Gmail in the White House or in the Department of Defense or the State Department, they can read your emails. You're on a government work server. Same in your corporation. Let's say you're working at a corporation, and you type in Yahoo account, or you want to go on fantasy. You have a fantasy football site with a password. If it's on the servers, they can go and look what you're doing. So same with your Twitter account, whatever. You are running on a corporate network, or you're running on a government network. She had servers. That's different. And all of this, okay, they set up and framed Michael Flynn initially. They had nothing on him. They already knew what he talked about with Sergei Kislyak. It was about easing tensions after President Obama's administration imposed sanctions to defend a private entity in the DNC. The DNC getting hacked by the entire planet every day for forever is not national security. Not national security. You want to know how I know? Because if the RNC was hacked by Russia or anyone else, the DNC wouldn't care. Just like when Biden is accused, they don't care, but they care when Kavanaugh. Just like when they care about Russian interference, but they don't care about a Steele dossier compiled with one active Russian intelligence official. They're the most duplicitous, disingenuous, sad, pathetic imbeciles on the planet, and they're hypocrites. The definition of a hypocrite is a Democrat. When you look up the word hypocrite, you'll see Joe Biden, a picture of Hillary Clinton, a picture of Schumer, a picture of a Democrat. That is the definition of a hypocrite. And they don't care, too. They actually live in their own world where they actually don't care that they're hypocrites. But Richard Grenell's the man. I don't want him to leave. I love this guy. I mean, he should, John Ratcliffe is great, but Richard Grenell should remain acting director. You know what Trump should do? Tomorrow, replace Christopher Wray at the FBI with Richard Grenell. If anyone is listening in the Trump administration, find a place for Richard Grenell FBI director, anything. He's amazing. God bless this man. He's amazing. And along with William Barr and John Durham, you better believe John Durham has everything he needs for indictments. They have all the information, people. And it's just the longer you run government, the longer you're in government, the more access you have to all this information. That's why when Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, all of them, they think that being on CNN is going to save them from John Durham. It's not. It doesn't work that way. Give me your thoughts below. The roof is caving in on the fact they set up and framed Michael Flynn and everyone around President Trump. They had no reason. They had no reason to interview Flynn. The only reason we found out is to get him to lie. Russia would never have blackmailed anyone, and it's funny because they're worried about blackmail with Flynn. There's no money transfer between Russian lobbyists, Uranium One officials. There's no $500,000 from a Moscow investment bank to Michael Flynn. The only thing, he was in like an RT function, and there was a photo of him. They care more about that photo with Jill Stein, where people are eating dinner next to Putin, than the $500,000, or the fact that Bill Clinton got all, or the fact that Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin at his home, or the fact that President Obama did not veto the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity. So I'm still wondering how Democrats get away with thinking that Russia is afraid of them. That's the most absurd thing of all time. Then you have the highly to moderately confident assessments. Give me your thoughts below. I don't want to sneeze. Give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to Bizarro World Goodman.